Mitochondrial inheritance is a particular problem because it's so difficult to make accurate statements. But nevertheless, increasingly we are recognizing families affected by mitochondrial disorders, and it's important to be able to deal with this in the clinic. Selina, Dominic, welcome. My name's John Byrne. I'm the consultant clinical geneticist. I've been asked to have a word with you by the paediatric team who have been looking after your little boy David, because they've done some genetic tests and we've got to the bottom of the problem, and they thought that you might want to come and have a chat to discuss that. Did they discuss that very much with you before they referred you, or did they just sort of send you over to see me?
They sent me over to see you, but also I'm obviously interested myself because we would like to become pregnant, and I'd like to know what the chances are, knowing that I have been pregnant 7 times with 4 different partners, and only one of those pregnancies has gone to full term and has survived, even though David is obviously profoundly disabled. We'd like to know what the chances are of that happening again.
Okay. David's problem is a very rare condition called Leig's disease, which is a breakdown of development of the brain, and as you know, the prospects are very poor. Because of that diagnosis, a sample was sent to our colleagues in the mitochondrial lab, and I'll tell you about that, what that means in a minute. And they found a spelling mistake in the mitochondrial DNA in David, which is the reason for him having Leig's disease. It also, in fact, they went to check your blood sample, which you sent in through the paediatric team, and they found that you also have a spelling mistake in your mitochondrial DNA. Now, the reason for all of those lost pregnancies, and something you've probably already worked out for yourself, having had these problems with different partners, that this might be something to do with you. In fact, mitochondrial problems are very unusual because normally we get our genes from our mum and dad. We get instructions, our genetic instructions, a copy from mum and a copy from dad, and they come in matching pairs. But there's a small group of genes which are different, and they're carried on a tiny chromosome called the mitochondrial chromosome. Now, the mitochondria, in order to explain what they are, I'm going to take you back a step. Your body's made of cells, millions and millions of little cells, each with a little wall around them and each with a job to do. There might be a heart cell, a brain cell, a skin cell, and they work as a team together to make the different organs. Now, inside each cell there's a nucleus, and inside the nucleus are the instructions that tell that cell what to do. But around the nucleus there is the factories that actually do the work, that make the proteins that make your body work. And what makes them work is that they have an energy supply from things called mitochondria. The best way to think of them is to think of the batteries in a dictating machine or something, the things that make it, or a radio. The mitochondria are the energy source inside your cells. Now, what makes them very special is that all the mitochondria in my body and in yours, all of our mitochondria come from our mothers. Because when an egg and sperm meet, the sperm is very, very tiny and has a set of chromosomes in it, genetic material. The egg's a big, enormous thing full of lots of information, including all the mitochondria. So if there's anything wrong with the mitochondria in the egg, then that will be passed on to the baby. But if there was anything wrong in the mitochondria of the father, he can't pass it on. He doesn't pass on the mitochondria. Okay? So it exclusively comes down from the mother's side, and it can affect either boys or girls, because we all need mitochondria to make us work. The reason mitochondria are special is we think in evolution, a long, long time ago, billions of years ago, there were cells and there were bacteria, and some of the bacteria went to live inside the cells. That made the bacteria safe because there were walls around them, and it helped the cells because it gave them energy. And so the bacteria kind of were like tame sort of cows being, in a milking herd, if you like. They provided a source of energy and were protected for it. And gradually they lost their independence and became part of us. And the only difference is they still have this little tiny chromosome that produces a few dozen messages, especially for making mitochondria. So in your mitochondria, there are lots of mitochondria that have a spelling mistake in them. And just by chance, your ovaries happen to have a sort of concentration, we think, of those cells. So a lot of your eggs are being produced with mostly faulty mitochondria.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that means every time you get pregnant, it will be with an egg that might contain faulty mitochondria, and it doesn't matter who the father is, because the mitochondria are exclusively coming down in the egg.
Okay.
The problem is we can test a pregnancy, but we can't easily say what proportion of the mitochondria are affected. So it's quite hard to predict the effect, but your experience suggests that you've got a very high risk of either losing it or having a baby with a problem.
I was going to say, what was your opinion based on the 7 instances so far?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that so far it hasn't worked out very well, so there's a very high risk of a recurrence of either a lost pregnancy or of a severe disability, and not something we can easily test for and make accurate predictions on. What we can do, however, is involve you with the IVF clinic, because you would be an ideal person to go for an egg donation. And if we went for an IVF pregnancy whereby you got given an egg by somebody else, it would be fertilised with the sperm from Dom and then put into you. And in fact, you don't need to fertilise it outside. You could just put the egg and the sperm in together and let them do their thing. And there's a good chance then you get pregnant. And of course, that would completely sidestep this problem. But in every other respect, it's your baby. So we've actually fixed the problem by taking away your egg and putting in a replacement egg. Now, genetically, it will not be your baby, but biologically, it would be your baby. You'd carry it to term. And so in every respect, it would be your child.
Okay.
Mitochondrial inheritance is one of the most challenging things to explain to people, not least because it's very hard to give them any precise figures and accurate results. But it is important for people to understand that you can go for ovum donation, and the attraction of ovum donation is that it doesn't carry quite the same emotional problems as sperm donation, because the mother is still obviously the mother in biological terms, and a lot of people see that as a very attractive option.